Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the January 23rd, 2019 meeting of the Daytona Beach City Commission. We're delighted to have each of you with us this evening. At this time, I would ask that Ms. LaMagna review the procedures for tonight's meeting.
Good evening. Agendas are available in the front of the room on the table to my right. All the exhibits pertaining to items on the agenda are posted on the bulletin board. Please feel free to view the exhibits at any time during tonight's meeting. You are required to fill out a yellow form to speak before the City Commission during the business meeting. The yellow forms are located next to Assistant City Clerk, Ms. Allison Brown. You must complete the sections that ask for your name, address, agenda item number, signature, and date. The form must be completed and placed in the designated box. Items on the agenda for first reading usually do not allow for public participation. However, there are some instances where citizens are allowed to speak on first reading items when they are considered public hearings. Items on the agenda for second reading are open for public hearing, and citizens may speak at the designated time. Resolutions under administrative items number 10 are open for public comments, and you may fill out a yellow form to speak when that item is called. Item 7A is your opportunity to address the City Commission concerning any item on the consent agenda. Please indicate on the yellow speaker sheet the agenda item number of the item you are addressing. Items or discussions not listed on the consent agenda will not be heard during this comment section. All citizens completing a yellow form will be allowed to speak for 2.5 minutes. When you approach a lectern, please speak clearly into the microphone and give your full name and address. The 2.5-minute clock on the monitor above and directly in front of you will start running when you begin to speak. Pay close attention to your time. You will be told when your time has expired. Item number 13 is the public comment forum. Will convene after the adjournment of the business meeting. This is the opportunity for the public to speak on any issue that is not on the business meeting agenda. All citizens completing the green form will be allowed to speak for 2.5 minutes. When you approach a lectern, please give your full name and address. Disorderly conduct in the public meeting of the City Commission. Article 2, Section 6238 of the City Code of Ordinances reads as follows. It shall be unlawful for any person to behave in a riotous or disorderly manner in any public meeting of the City Commission, or any committee, agency, or board thereof, or to cause any unnecessary disturbances therein by force, shouting, or any other action calculated to disrupt such meeting, or to refuse to obey any ruling of the presiding officer or such meeting relative to the orderly process thereof. Please be courteous and respectful of the views of others. Personal attacks on the City Commission, city staff, or members of the public are not allowed. Please silence cell phones and other wireless devices during the meeting. All conversation must take place either at the lectern or on the dais so that everyone can hear the business being discussed tonight.
Madam Clerk, may we have a roll call?
Commissioner Traeger. Here. Commissioner Delgado.
Here.
Commissioner May. Here. Commissioner Gilliland.
Here.
Commissioner Henry.
Here.
Commissioner Reed.
Here.
Mayor Derek L. Henry.
Here. We will now have the invocation led by Commissioner Reed, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Traeger.
I will bless the Lord at all times. His praises shall continuously be in my mouth. And having said that, Lord, we say thank you. We thank you for this day. We thank you for this opportunity to serve. And we thank you for a city called Daytona Beach, Florida. Lord, we pray for all those who may be experiencing loss, be it hurricane, be it shootings, be it volcanoes, be it storms, be it fire. Whatever the case may be, Lord, you know the need. We pray that you would meet their needs. We pray, Lord, for those who make us free, because freedom is not free. For all those who are fighting on the lines for our safety, we pray for their families as they wait for them to come home. And Lord, we pray for those here in our city who keep us safe as well. And as we meet tonight, Lord, we ask for unity, we ask for cohesiveness of thought, and we pray that the decisions that we make will represent not only you, but the citizens of this city to the utmost. And we give you all the glory, all the honor, and all the praise. In the matchless name of Jesus, I pray. Let us all say, Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll now move on to item 4, which is approval of the minutes of the January 9, 2019 business meeting of the City Commission.
Second.
We'll take a motion from Commissioner Gilliland and a second from Commissioner Reed. We'll now move on to our agenda. If there are any changes, our city manager will address them at this time.
Did they vote?
Oh.
They didn't vote.
My apologies. We'll take a motion. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Now we will move on to our agenda. If there are any changes, our city manager will address them.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight, we're going to pull item 8B, Derbyshire Park Phase 3 Improvements Racing and Rec Facilities District Grant Acceptance, and we'll bring it back at a later date. We're going to continue item 10B, a Vista rezoning planned development redevelopment to the February 6th meeting of the City Commission at the request of the applicant.
The applicant is here to confirm that, Jim, I believe.
Yeah, he was here. I think he's just walked out.
Good. You may come forward if you have.
Good evening, Commission. I'm Diane Larson with Selby Realty, 200 East Granada Boulevard in Ormond Beach, and I'm representing the owner of the property at 921 and 919 North Beach Street, sir.
Okay, I think that's
Was there an
another
error?
Yeah, that's another. You're not the applicant for this particular item.
I see. Okay. Thank you, sir. I
Thank you.
apologize.
That's okay.
That's okay.
It was Mr. Storch. He did send a,
He said he had to leave.
He said he had to leave?
and he did send an email requesting.
Okay. All right, very well.
Should we approve the agenda with it and then continue the item?
I believe that's the intent. The item will be continued to next meeting. So, is that correct?
That's correct.
Do I need to read it into the record still and then continue it,
Well, why
or
don't-
do we pull it
That'd be
from?
the way we normally do it. It'd be preferable. Let's handle that separately. When the item comes up, we'll continue it at that point. We'll read it in, we'll continue it,
Okay.
rather than doing it as part of the agenda approval.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, motion to approve the agenda with the exception of item 8B, which is being pulled from tonight's agenda.
Second.
All right, we'll take a motion from Commissioner Gilliland, and we have a second from Commissioner Traeger. Do we have any further discussion or any other questions? Okay, hearing none, all those who are in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those who are opposed, same sign. This motion carries 7-0.
We'll now move on to item number 6, which is presentations. Presentation 6A is the Beautification Awards for January 2019. A member of the Beautification Tree Advisory Board to present.
Mayor Henry, members of the City Commission, and Mr. Chisholm. My name is Candy Schramm, 572 Crooked Stick Drive, Zone 4. The Beautification Tree Advisory Board has selected Robert and Darlene Dilio, 6 Captiva at Lion's Paw, as the Residential Beautification Award winner for the month of January 2019. Mr. and Mrs. Dilio have been residents of Daytona Beach for 2 years. They love their home and take pride in maintaining their yard. The types of trees, shrubs, and plants used for beautification include holly trees, dwarf ixora, lantana, vincas, boxwood, and variegated grass. City Commissioner Robert Gilliland, Zone 4, will be presenting the award. Yes.
So for people who aren't real familiar with where this is, that first entrance into LPGA just past the Auto Mall, which really is, to me, sort of the main entrance to LPGA. It has the most developed oak trees. It really has a canopy over the street. These are the homes that are along the sort of the right-hand side as you're going in, and they're beautiful. And this is one that absolutely stands out. And if I may read this, it's a certificate of achievement. May it be known that the certificate is presented to Robert and Darlene Dilio for distinguished achievement in residential beautification, City Daytona Beach, presented this 23rd day of January 2019, and it's signed by both the Mayor, Derek Henry, and myself, Rob Gilliland. And I thank you for being in Daytona, being part of our community, and taking such great care of your house.
Mayor Henry, members of the City Commission, and Mr. Chisholm, the Beautification Tree Advisory Board has selected the Halifax Law Center, 138 Live Oak Avenue, as the Commercial Beautification Award winner for the month of January 2019. The building is owned and managed by Chobe Ebbets, attorney at law. It was built in 1910 and is located in the downtown historic district of Daytona Beach. The Halifax Law Center has been in the Daytona Beach area for 43 years and was formerly located at 210 South Beach Street. The types of trees, shrubs, and plants used for beautification include holly trees, ferns, palm trees, historic live oak trees, and natural local flora. Mayor Henry will be presenting the award.
Certainly, this property is one that we're all proud of, and it's in a historic area, and it certainly is a well taken care of property. It's very pristine, but the building itself is a sight to behold, and we appreciate all that you do to maintain it. This certificate reads, a certificate of achievement. May it be known that this certificate has been presented to Halifax Law Center for distinguished achievement in commercial beautification, City of Daytona Beach, Florida, presented this 23rd day of January 2019, signed by myself, Derek Henry, and your Commissioner, Juanita May.
On to item 7. Citizens. This is public comments by people addressing the City Commission. During this time, citizens have the opportunity to address the City Commission on any item on the consent agenda. My first and only speaker is John Nicholson.
John Nicholson, 413 North Granview Avenue. 3 things. 1, C, 2D, and 3. Is there anything from the first readings that's going to be pulled so we can put our notices in? So there's several first readings. Sometimes you allow public speaking. If there is, let us know. Secondly, the sculpture that is going up on 95, when are we going to see it? And secondly, hopefully we won't have a lot of landscaping. We're not really good at a lot of landscaping, and it's very costly. I know the state likes a lot of fluff and whatnot, but it's very costly to maintain it and to keep it looking nice. And secondly, on the $180 for rental at the Dickerson Center, is that the going rate, and is that what everybody else is paying? Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to approve consent agenda.
I have a motion from Commissioner Gilliland and a second from Commissioner Henry. Do we have any other questions or comments concerning the consent agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those in opposition, same sign. This motion carries 7-0.
Okay, moving on to item number 9, which is public hearings. Item number 9A is the Development Administrative Services Redevelopment Division, China 1, rezoning to redevelopment Midtown Neighborhood Center, mixed use, RDM2. This is an ordinance on second reading, public hearing. An ordinance amending the zoning map of the Land Development Code to rezone 0.246 plus or minus acres of property located at 617 Bellevue Avenue from SFR5 single-family residential to RDM2 redevelopment Midtown Neighborhood Center mixed use, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith and providing an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
We'll take a motion from Commissioner Reed and a second from Commissioner Traeger.
I do have speakers, Mr. Mayor. My first speaker is Patricia Hurd, and on deck is John Nicholson.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Patricia Hurd, 822 Vernon Street, Daytona Beach, Florida. I'm here to speak on behalf of the 9A, the China 1 restaurant and the parking lot. I am a resident here from the 50s, and That place has been there all the while. What I'm about to say is that with a parking lot there, they just torn down the house. We have had the largest grocery store around, and that is the Harris's, in which some of us still go up to Barnell and buy their food. I do not want a store on the corner whereby they go out to Save-A-Lot and other little stores, buy the food, and bring it back and put it on the shelf. Some of you don't know where this is. You haven't visited the place or anything. And I don't need anyone living in the grocery store. I don't need anyone living there. With a parking lot being there, that means that we have more transits coming in. That is from Ridgewood Avenue to Nova Road, and especially Fremont Avenue. We have more drugs. The store across the street, nothing but drugs. I can show you pictures on my phone whereby I've taken where they are dealing just the other day. How many of you all come in that particular zone and that area? It's easier to say yes, 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 but do you visit the area? And trafficking, you know, you've heard about trafficking. We have it in the neighborhood, and which means there will be more. And it will also lower the value, the property value of people that have been there for years. I love to say that's where our black educators lived. That's where they came from, the service, army, and everywhere, and built beautiful homes. But now the property is being sold to anybody. They are renting, and it's going down. And with Channel One there, they live in the grocery store.
Thank you, ma'am. Your time has
That's
expired.
okay. Thank you for your time. I think you get the point.
Our next speaker is John Nicholson, and on deck is Harriet Edwards.
John Nicholson, 413 North Grandview Avenue. I was asked to speak on this because I pass this location all the time. I've seen it change. There is a relatively large parking lot there already. I'm not satisfied that they're tearing down another home. I was just at one of the meetings, and there's a building they're thinking about tearing down. It's in disrepair, and it has to be torn down. This area does not have enough homes to start with to be able to just willy-nilly start tearing down homes. That is a problem. Secondly, if indeed there is somebody living there, that's something that needs to be addressed. It was on Ridgewood. I think it should also be here as well. To have such a large parking lot, is there something that we don't know about for future use? If you're familiar with the building, it's a relatively large building, and the parking lot is closer to MLK. I'm guessing 18 to 25 parking spaces. When it was a school, that's the most cars I've ever seen in it. So there's generally like 5 or 6 cars. So I don't know why there's a need for it. But again, look at it carefully. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Harriet Edwards, and on deck is Landon Williams.
Hello, I'm Harriet Edwards, and I live at 924 School Street in Daytona Beach. I'm not very satisfied with the fact that you're putting a parking lot on that corner. That's my street when I turn in from Bellevue, and it's a very narrow street, and 2 cars can just barely get through that area. I know that there are a lot of homes that are being misused. There are homes on my street that are being rented out, and some of them I'm even afraid to go down my street myself. So I would prefer that if you could put something there, put another house. My neighborhood is getting to the point where we're being too commercial. I would like to have an area where I can say it is and continues to be a residential area. I keep my place really nice. I know that others, and I encourage others around me to do so, but I'm not happy with the fact that you're going to put a parking lot there. And as the gentleman said before, there's an area over there where they do park for this restaurant that they have there, and it's never, ever full. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Landon Williams, and on deck is Doyle Lewis.
I reside at 836 Vernon Street. I was blessed to purchase a home that was owned by a Mrs. Cora Pugh, who was an educator for some 50-plus years here in Daytona Beach. When I moved into the community, we had a rampant drug and prostitution problem, and it seemed to have dripped from Ridgewood down Fremont Avenue, and Bellevue became corridors. And I worked collaboratively along with neighbors such as Patricia Hurd and the Hancock family next to me, with our neighborhood watch. It was a Harriet Higbee neighborhood watch meeting that we would work with Daytona Beach Chief Chitwood and his deputy in trying to use both K-9 resources and other resources to eliminate the drug and prostitution problem that we had. We just cleared that problem up about 3-4 years ago, I believe, Mrs. Hurd. And we just think that the jury is still out on this restaurant enterprise. We don't want to begin changing zoning without knowing what we are going to attract. And so my issue is with the zoning affecting the homogeneity of the neighborhood. This is a residential neighborhood where we've got some fine Americans who are moderate to low income, who are doing all they can to maintain their homestead, and I don't think it's in the best interest of the neighborhood at this point to change because we have a new enterprise to come in and they've not been proven to attract the right type of clientele. Let's try and I would simply respectfully ask this commission to punt the issue. Let's try and see what type of corporate neighbor Channel One is going to be to us residents before we start changing very valuable moderate to low income parcels to accommodate their overall energy. We don't even know if they're going to be here next year.
Thank you, sir. Your time has expired.
And I would just simply ask that you give this more thought than to accommodate a
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
We heard you.
Thank you.
doesn't have a track record of being.
Thank you, sir.
Your time's up.
Our final speaker is Doyle Lewis.
Good evening, Commission. Again, my name is Doyle Lewis. I came to Daytona to babysit, and here I am talking in front of you. The entire reason why you need growth is because of the people that go to college here. This affects this particular situation. The children that are out there on the streets walking, they need a place to go close by. They're walking to get their food. They're riding bicycles to get their food. Growth happens with life. If you've lived long enough to know that, I've lived long enough to know that. If you don't have a grocery store close to a residential area, guess what you have? People that don't have ability to get food. I grew up in the agricultural area of Texas. New growth happens with new life. Without it, you don't get new paint, you don't get new parking lots, you don't get new growth, you don't have transportation ways. The best transportation you have is your 2 feet. You don't need a gasoline station for that on the corner, do you? This needs to happen. Because life happens. I'm a homeless man because you made me homeless in Daytona Beach. You made me homeless in Volusia County. 9 years. How much more you want to teach me? I'm an avid computer, high-speed internet user for over 30 years. I'm sick of looking at the screen. I like trees better than anything else. Parking lots have to happen, but you got to have trees around it. Make this happen. Sorry, but new things have to happen because if you don't, the town's going to die. Thank you.
That was my final speaker on this item.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. We've had some compelling, I think, community dialogue. Does the commission have anything?
Yes.
Yes.
I actually did go and visit the neighborhood. Some residents were kind enough to invite me over and show me around. As we drove around the neighborhood, I noticed that there were some vacant lots and that there seemed to be sites of congregation. That was a concern I had, that this would turn into another situation, especially since the parking lot proposed is off the main street, so it'd be somewhat hidden. That's number one. The second thing is, if we were to vote in favor of the parking lot, what kind of enforcement do we have from code or the police to monitor the area? Any ideas on what we could do if we were to vote yes? How could we help keep the area clean or refreshed or free of people just being in the neighborhood or prostitution? How do we do that?
Is anyone, Chief Capri?
Craig Capri, Chief of Police. We would enforce the law equally and equitably. I mean, just by people loitering, hanging around, there's not much we can do if they're not breaking the law. I know the area you're talking about. If you look at the history of that area, if you go back, it was probably between South and Martin Luther King and Bellevue and Martin Luther King was one of the hottest open-air drug markets, probably in the county at one time. Through enforcement efforts and redevelopment efforts, it's really non-existent. If you look at, there's a change in ownership at the Quick and Easy there. It's not even open most of the times that I see. It looks like it's closed. There's absolutely no complaints that I have, except tonight I heard about drug activity being there. I drive through it several times a week. I don't see anybody out there selling drugs. If you look at the south end with the bars, they have become a non-issue anymore for us on the night shift where we'd be down there with a lot of resources. It seems like everything's changing more to like almost like a family neighborhood is what I'm seeing compared to what it was. And this is over the last 20 years. So I don't see it being that big of a problem. You might have your occasional prostitution issue along Martin Luther King. We address that. But as far as the drugs, and we'll be out there in force. We have 2 officers assigned there 24 hours a day.
Say that again, sir.
We have 2 officers assigned in that zone 24 hours a day.
Okay.
So there will be a police presence
Sure.
there.
That's 1 second, sir. Just 1 second. The other question is, as it relates to, let's say, how it looks now in terms of code enforcement with trash in the parking lots and or overgrown weeds. It'll be a bigger parking lot, etc.
Yes.
So has there been code violations on the property at all for that?
Not that I know of over there, but if you're looking at putting a new parking lot, we'll of course be monitoring you. The goal is hopefully new business, new redevelopment with a new lot that they're going to maintain that property. If not, we're going to be on them and make sure they do maintain it.
And then one final question.
Yes.
A resident mentioned while standing there, I believe Ms. Hurt, that she suspected somebody was living in the building. Do we know this to be true? Can we investigate that?
First I'm hearing it, we'll check it though. We can check it.
I would like that.
Yeah, we're a phone call away. Ms. Hurd calls me several times. And we'll go check it out.
Okay.
She has my phone number several times a week. I talk to her.
I would very much like to know if that's the case, and is that allowed?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
How far is the nearest store to this location?
Reed, can you answer that?
How far is the nearest store or grocery store to this location? Is it the Walmart on Bevel?
Well, this is a fairly small store.
Yeah.
So, I can go down Orange Avenue and find a small grocery store there. So I would say it's as far as driving up the street to Orange Avenue and towards Nova, and you can get the groceries there as well.
As far as going where? Cross
Well,
Nova?
there was Pearson's,
Right.
and that would be one of the
And that's on
groceries.
Orange Avenue, right?
It's a comparable size store, yes.
Okay. So our effort right now is to fight food desert in that area. So I think hearing from the police chief, it's a win because that's our goal right now. That's been a main objective for that zone and for zone 4, which are residential areas but have quite a ways to go to get to sustainable food supplies, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Thank you. We need more.
Reed, can I ask a question while you're there? Could you please explain the language? Possibly the attorney can explain the language. The phrase is proposed grocery store. How far have they gone down the road of proposed grocery? Is that potential grocery store, or we're thinking about it, or we have documentation, we have permitting, and we are ready to go grocery store? Which is it?
My understanding is that they want to. I have not seen an application for a business license.
No business license. Okay.
And then when we have an application, then we'll look at the layout inside.
And so are they
any
saying
permits.
grocery store is contingent upon parking lot?
They cannot use the back because they have no more parking by our requirements.
Okay.
So they need that additional land in the parking to get that back part of the store open.
Okay.
So essentially you're saying that if we don't pass this, they won't be able to be a grocery store?
They won't be able to make use of the remainder of the building. It's over half the building would remain vacant.
And conversely, what if we give them the parking lot and they still don't build the grocery store? Do we have any guarantees that they will?
It's a good question. If they go ahead and get the rezoning, and I don't know why they would build a parking lot if they didn't have some use in the back. But certainly that's their intent, and that's what they've expressed all along, is that they're going to do it. The applicant's here if you want to ask them the question.
Reed, I'm looking at the backup since this is my zone. And I'm trying to understand exactly, I'm looking at all these pictures we have here. Is this the corner of Bellevue and School?
I'd have to see it, but Bellevue and...
Page 117.
Mr. Reed, the subject property is the corner of MLK and Bellevue, and the property that's being rezoned is to the west of the already developed parcel. There was a school for a time. I think it may have been a grocery or another
I know where the building is. I'm trying to find out where the parking lot is going.
It's adjacent and to the west.
To the west?
Yes, ma'am. Which would be towards Nova Road. It'd be towards Nova Road.
Oh, where that house, that's where this house is on the corner.
And
is the house demolished yet?
It's demolished. The folks that own the property first were going to live in the house. They got to thinking about it. They have a restaurant on the property already. And their business at China One has survived there, doing business, and it's been an empty building for a long time. They've activated that part of the property. They saw that they could do business in the neighborhood, and they moved forward. And in respect to the answer of groceries, there may be a small grocery on Orange, but in order to reach a large grocery where you might shop at all, you've got to go down to Nova Road and go towards Winn-Dixie or Walmart, as you suggested, Commissioner, or go to Nova Road or some other way to get to Aldi on the other side of Nova Road. So from a grocery choice selection, irrespective of the quantity of things that are there, there's distances to travel to get there. So the comparison in respect to walking or biking, there's a distance to go. Even if you went the other direction towards Orange, it's still a distance to go. When you consider that Bellevue was once the connecting highway between Daytona Beach and DeLand, it's still a road that goes out to the west and connects a number of significant properties, as well as MLK being a collector street north and south. It's a natural location for services, and the properties around the corner in the vicinity immediately, I know you know, Commissioner, are largely vacant to the further west, and to the immediate north is a car wash. It's been there quite some time. There's a little store diagonally across on the corner. I go through this intersection all the time. I can't remember what's on the southeast corner, but otherwise you have
An empty lot.
that sort of development there. And it's a consistent application with what the history of the property is, the area development, and it's a chance for improvement. In answer to your question, it's proposed because there's no zoning to permit it to be permitted in terms of the requirements to have parking and so on. I don't think the development agreement guarantees that it will be done, but I think failure to pass it guarantees that it won't be done. So that's the rationale implicit in the staff report and also the consideration by the planning board. So,
Okay, let me go to Commissioner Traeger because she's been waiting.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay.
My concern is that we really would like a grocery store there. However, in both the planning board minutes and the Midtown redevelopment minutes, it says that is not a guarantee. The applicant indicated a final determination has not been made as to the type of business that will be located on this site, and a grocery store may not be located there. And the man that was representing the owner, he said the applicant applied for a grocery store, but the applicant may look at other options. And in the Midtown, it said basically Mr. Wang Tianfu stated the owner may use the parking lot for overflow parking and may not open a grocery store. He was not sure.
Yes, there's no question there isn't a guarantee. The agreement doesn't call for a guarantee. You do have a restaurant use there as well that already exists. And the times that I pass through there are ordinarily not the times that people would likely be there for dinner, but it's a kind of a constrained site. I've been down and looked at it and looked at the old house and just wondered how things would work, and this is a little while back. But those are the conditions of it, so it's, you have the dilemma of additional development in Midtown, and this would be additional development in Midtown that would be a service to the neighborhood. If it occurs, it probably won't occur without the change, and you'd have a partially vacant building because they're only using a portion of the building for the restaurant. And this building's been empty for so long. I remember when the school was there, but it's been a few years since it was there. I don't know, Commissioner Reed, you know better than I do, but
It was a church
been an empty, vacant place that just was like a hole in the road as you drove through. And it's the intersection of two primary roads in the city, particularly in that community. You've got a lot of through traffic from US 1 to Nova and on to the west, and then the north-south traffic that goes up and down MLK.
Okay.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Is the applicant here? Do they have anything that they want to say? Or?
No, somebody.
Yes?
Yes. Y'all want to ask them any questions or anything you want to say, sir?
My name is Rashid Jamalabad with RJ Engineering, 5931 Brick Court, Winter Park, Florida. And I'm representing the owner, and obviously I hear some concerns from the public hearing and speakers, as Mr. Reed explained in detail in the past, and also again the existing building is obviously part of it is empty and vacant. Any kind of business you bring it there's no parking to conduct a business. The first thing that the city is going to be asking for, where are you going to park it? So there it is. There's no parking space to park the building, so as a result the building is going to remain empty for the years to come. Has been empty, vacant, cannot be moved forward, and so the remain is going to remain stay. So in proposing the parking lot there is going to enhance the site and the area, as well as providing the parking lot needed parking spaces for those empty vacant spaces, whether it's going to be grocery or whether it's going to be another business type or any kind of thing, business activity that individuals going to conduct. They need to have parking spaces. Without a parking space, obviously that place is dead. So I'm available and I can answer. I'll be more than happy to answer any more questions that members commission has.
Well, I'm looking at the backup, and it says that this will not adversely affect property taxes or property values, which is one of the concerns the citizens brought forward. I can also understand their concern about the loitering of folks standing around, and Chief has also indicated that they would continue to do what they normally do. And when it comes to patrolling, I see where this is located. That house has been, as my mother would say, dilapidated for some time. I think because this is on the edge of this community, that and I heard what the citizens said, and I take heart with that. I also have to recognize that I have to make what I think might be the best decision. I know that only half of this restaurant is being used, or this facility is being used, and this was the Harris grocery store growing up, and it's been a church, and it's been a church and a school. And I met with someone just on yesterday that was praising this restaurant, saying that when Quick and Easy closes at 5, this is somewhere they can go and get some wings real quick later into the night. They didn't mention anything about loitering, but perhaps that's being seen by those who live there. But I think that if we're going to move forward, that we have to have a forward-thinking mind. And I'm just a little perplexed because I heard what they said, and I know what I was already prepared to vote. But some of the concerns that they mentioned, I wanted to share that they were in the backup, and that the redevelopment, Midtown Redevelopment Board voted for this, as well as the Planning Board. So it went through 2 boards before it even got to us. So that's something to consider as well.
Okay, I would just say, because we all want to value the residents' concerns, and these are very valuable members of our community who have been in great standing with us. But they have said to essentially us, not that they don't trust you, but they don't know.
Well,
and so, okay, my encouragement to you is that you would simply be as good a partner as you can possibly be. And while I intend to support this, because I do believe that we want to change the dynamics of this neighborhood, and I realize it's an investment for you to build a parking lot. So my hope is that it will be a grocery store to whatever degree you can make it that, and make it the best that you can make it. But they've stated, and so for those that you represent, just communicate what you heard from those who are respectable in the community, so that they know what's expected and what's desired by them.
Definitely, I will do that.
Do you anything else?
Well, one thing that I just want to know, thing that I'd like to mention is that when we propose a parking lot is not just a pavement there, parking lot. Obviously, we're going to have a landscaping, we got a retention pond, stuff like that. It's going to be meeting all the land development code requirements as the city requires. It's going to go through a whole 9 yards of the final engineering, design, and approval and process, all those process. It is not just like put the parking lot there. So parking lot is going to serve vacant spaces, and also is going to beautify the area with the landscaping, buffer areas and everything else. And then as far as traffic concerns, some of the residents had a concern about the traffic being narrow area. We have conducted a traffic study as well. There was no issue at all. So city approved it as well. So again, we have to go through a whole process of perimeter through the water management district, through the city, and all these things all these issues going to come to the table, and we're going to address all those issues. So we respectfully request in the commission to approve this project for us.
May I say one more thing?
Yes, ma'am.
Change can be good, and change can also be threatening. And for those who've lived there all that time, I think it would be wise perhaps to even have a community meeting to engage them, to let them know what you're proposing to do, to involve them, to make it a community effort. I think that's what's happening. They don't know, as the mayor's indicated, exactly what you're proposing to do, since with this rezoning, it doesn't necessarily have to be a grocery store. I like the beautification that's going to come with the parking lot, but I think the people of that neighborhood who have spoken this evening, those that they represent, perhaps need to be spoken to. Invite them over and have some wings in the restaurant.
To answer your question, is with all due respect, we conducted the community meeting way back in October 30th. I believe it was October the 4th.
Mm-hmm.
And we sent out notification to about all the neighbors about 500 feet buffer area instead of 300. The city required 300. We have some 500 feet of buffer. The only person we had one person showed up, and she was in favor of it. And I sent that my statement, summary, and everything else with that the result of it to the city and the board and to review. And like I said, we conduct the community meeting. We don't want to show up. So there was no objection to it, and that person that showed up, he was in favor, and they loved it, and they wanted excited to that is going to be grocery there.
And you did the traditional certified meals, all of those?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Okay. Do we have any other comments from the commission?
I'm not sure if this is allowed, okay? Since I'm new, I guess I get to make mistakes until I'm told I'm not. Is there a response to that with regard to the
No,
receiving?
no.
They can't
do
speak
that.
again.
No.
Can't do that. Then no. No.
You can't just
Can't do that.
call them up.
Okay.
The public dialogue is over. Okay. If we have no further questions of the applicant or comments from the commission, I would just say this. If they live there in this property, I would like to ask you to tell them that we have lots of properties in the neighborhood that they can purchase to make that their residence.
That part of it I'm not aware of it at all.
Okay.
But definitely I'll take these concerns to them if, you know.
Okay.
But I'm not aware of it at all whatsoever.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you.
We have a motion and a second. We don't have any other questions or comments. We'll go ahead and take a roll call vote on this in case.
Okay. Commissioner Traeger?
Yes.
Commissioner Delgado?
Yes.
Commissioner May?
Yes.
Commissioner Gilliland?
Yes.
Commissioner Henry?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
No.
Mayor Derek L. Henry?
Yes.
Passes 6-1.
Vote for my people.
Okay. Moving on to 9B. It is the Development and Administrative Services Planning Division Land Development Code Text Amendment, Mobile Food Vending. This is an ordinance on first reading public hearing. An ordinance amending the Land Development Code, amending Article 5, Section 5.4, temporary uses and structures to allow for mobile vending as a temporary use, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date.
So moved.
We have a motion from Commissioner Gilliland and a second from Commissioner Reed.
I do have speakers, Mr. Mayor. Our first speaker is Dino Paspalaskas, and on deck is Lisa Suros.
We had a change, I think, from planning that we should mention before we take the public comment.
Okay.
I'm sorry, yes, if I may. Thank you, Dennis Mrozek, Planning Director at the city. As you know, we've got two different regulations here that we're modifying. One is the Land Development Code, and the other one is the Code of Ordinance. The Land Development Code is the document that will allow it in certain zoning districts. Actually, we opened it up to all zoning districts as a temporary use. And then the Code of Ordinances is the regulations that are associated with that. The one change that Bob was mentioning was in the text of the Land Development Code, and it's Section 5.4 B, and it talks about where mobile food vending would be permitted, and this is in the prohibited section. So we're just going to modify the language a little bit in that section to say that some of those uses were prohibited except as part of the authorized not-for-profit, special or city-recognized or authorized event, and may include mobile food vendors licensed by the city. So that's the language we're going to change in the Land Development Code text amendment, and it'll come forward with you on the next meeting. And since we do have these two regulations, I can go over briefly some of the things that had changed since the last meeting that we had based on the workshop that we had. I know we did have a few different changes, and if you'd like, I can give you just a brief summary of some of the things that had changed that were discussed at the workshop and at the last City Commission, if you'd like.
Yeah.
Would
Does
you
this
like to? Okay.
change include what I proposed last week?
Yes, it did.
Week before last?
Yeah, no problem. The concern was that some of the churches are located next to some of the single-family residential. We opened it up to allow the churches, regardless of the location of the single-family residential. So the mobile food vending can occur at any place of worship, regardless of the location of the place of or the single family. We did include a definition for mobile food vending that was not there before. We allowed mobile food vending throughout the city. We had talked about allowing it only in certain areas of the city, but we decided we opened it up to all areas of the city, and the restrictions are only within 500 feet of a licensed grocery store or a produce store. Unless they have permission from the grocery store or the produce store, they can't be within 500 feet of the grocery store. We removed the ability for the mobile food vending to operate in the right-of-way. That was one of the big things, so they can only operate on private property now for the mobile food vending. Mobile food vending can occur on private property. It's not permitted within 250 feet of a licensed eating establishment as measured from mobile food vendor to the entrance of the establishment, and this is during operating hours of the establishment. This does not apply to the produce vending. Also, if a restaurant, if a licensed eating establishment wanted to have a mobile food vending on their property, they'd be allowed to do that. There is no restriction as far as the distance for that. The other restriction had to do with the mobile food vending. It's not permitted within 250 feet of a private property developed with single-family or a duplex dwelling. And this, again, is measured from the mobile food vending to the closest exterior wall of the residential dwelling, unless they have consent from the property owner. This section does not apply to the mobile produce vendors or to the places of worship. So they can go into those areas regardless of the distance. We looked at the hours. We had I think a 7 o'clock to a 10 o'clock range that the mobile food vendors could be operating. We changed that to a maximum of 8 hours in any 24-hour period. So they got the flexibility to come in a little later, stay a little later in the location, as long as it's no longer than 8 hours. And then we also added a sunset provision that would automatically repeal the ordinance on July 1st, 2020, unless further extended by the City Commission. So those were the changes that we had discussed at the workshop and at the last City Commission meeting that are included in this ordinance that's being presented tonight. And that item is a little bit later on today, I think, on the agenda, but they do go together.
And one unusual circumstance here is this is a public hearing because it's an amendment to the LDC. The ordinance, the code changes that Dennis is referring to, is actually an ordinance on first reading, so there will not be a public hearing on that today. There'll be a public hearing on that for second reading. So I would suggest we go ahead and take our public hearing when it's time on the LDC amendment and not try to distinguish between the code versus the LDC because they're so interrelated for tonight's purposes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. We have speakers?
Sorry, our first speaker is Dina Paz-Velasquez, and on deck is Lisa Soros.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Dina Paz-Velasquez, 565 Riverside Drive. I'm against this. Let me give you a little story. First of all, I've always been against itinerant vending. It puts them at an advantage. I mean, we pay property taxes, we own property, we employ people 365 days a year. We can't just come in during the busy times and leave or whatever. We are there, and this is a slap in the face of the permanent businesses because I'll give you a little story. I had a health inspection at the Pizza King back in July. Okay, this time it had the state inspector come in. And the state inspector turned around to me and said, I need you to put a hand washing sink in the prep area. Now, I have a hand washing sink in the serving area. I have a hand washing sink next to my bathroom. She wanted a third hand washing sink, and this one, I turn around to her and go, that's fine. I will do it, and I will put it right next to my 3-compartment sink because you're not allowed to wash your hands in a 3-compartment sink, but you can wash your hands in a hand washing sink. Okay, anyway, so I told her, okay, I'll do it, and I'll do it tomorrow. I have no problem doing it. The problem I have is that there's a food vendor on the boardwalk selling pizzas and what have you. Do they have 3 hand wash sinks? Do they even have running water? Do they have a bathroom facility? I mean, these are unfair situations that I have to compete against. And I know some people will say to you, well, this will be Mexican food. It's not competitive. I mean, you're serving pizzas. When you eat, you eat. If you eat lunch, you're not going to eat another lunch. I mean, you're done. I mean, you're done until dinner time. So what you're basically doing is slapping the face of every permanent businessman who has a restaurant in town. And when you draw the lines, I mean, 250 feet from the point of entrance to this, look at all the investment of people who are building bona fide restaurants in town. I mean, even Daytona One. I mean, theoretically, if you're at the credit union thing and you get the permission from the IHOP across the street, you might be able to put food vendors and compete against some of these restaurants that invest in, a lot of money over there. I mean, this is, I'm done.
Thank you, Dino.
I could go on.
I know.
Our next speaker is Lisa Soros, and on deck is Tim Kostadakis.
Hello, my name is Lisa Psiros, and yes, that is my brother. I live at 8 North Venetian Way, and my family, including my brothers, owns 3 food establishments, 2 arcades, and 2 gift stores, all in Daytona Beach. With the restaurants having to abide with all the zoning laws, the building codes, the sign laws, and on, now we have an ordinance that will allow food trucks to come in and compete with the year-round restaurants. I know I wouldn't invest in the city of Daytona Beach if I knew a food truck can just pop up within walking distance of my restaurant. This will hamper the investment into the city of Daytona Beach, and it will hurt our restaurants. When someone eats, they're no longer hungry. These trucks are not going to go to the outskirts of Daytona Beach. They're going to go to Main Street, the Boardwalk, Seabreeze, and ISB. If there's a market for a restaurant, the economy will take care of that need. Please do not lower our standards and just go ahead and reject this whole ordinance. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Tim Kostadakis, and on deck is John Nicholson.
Tim Kostadakis, 915 Woodmere Circle, Ormond Beach. My family's been in this area for 5 decades now. Business owners for almost 40 years. This issue started back in the 70s. Maybe a lot of people don't remember it, but International Speedway, Volusia Avenue, was nothing but trailers and vendors all around the Speedway, Midway Avenue. They got reined in, they got pulled into the track. We see the development on International Speedway. In the 80s, started with the itinerant vending to take care of the blighted areas. All we have to do is drive down the north end of Beach Street. Thank God Brown & Brown's coming in, developing that end. But we see what happened on that end versus the south end that didn't have itinerant vending. Buildings were filled up, the north end died. Main Street, other than the special events, drive down there and any other time of the year, 9 to 5, it's desolate. There's a handful of places that are open year-round, but the rest of them, because of this vending that comes in, they're allowed to have one structure. Next thing you know, these are coming in, and it's an easy buck. They don't have to operate year-round. We already have TPAs, 20 days a year. Let them go in. We are landlords. We have tenants. We have national brands on our property. Dunkin' Donuts kills it. Burger King maybe not so much. Can they come in and start competing with these other businesses that are paying? Our property taxes last year were close to $20,000 just for that portion. We need to support local businesses, not for that fast buck, that $100 permit that we're going to get. What is that going to sustain us when we're not supporting our bricks and mortar buildings that pay the property taxes? There's no homestead exemption on commercial property. The taxes go up, we keep paying them. But then we're going to sit there and we have to compete, like Dino said, and not to reiterate it, but we've got overhead costs that these mobile vendors that come into town, they're only going to be here for a certain amount of time. They're going to go look for the new BBB, the bigger, better deal. They're going to leave, they go to the next place. Let's look south down to Canal Street or Flagler Avenue in New Smyrna. Thriving, bustling. You can't find a parking space. Do you find vendors down there? No, you find art shows down there and wine walks that patronize the local.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is John Nicholson, and on deck, I believe it's Nick Colores.
John Nicholson, 413 North Granbury Avenue. Aren't you glad I'm not Greek? John Nicholson has been coming here probably 15, 17 years regarding the restaurants on Main Street. I know you don't like that joke, but it's...
No, it's not a joke. I don't like it. No, okay. No, I don't.
Greek names are very difficult for me, and so are Chinese. But I've been asking you that restaurants are restaurants. They have to abide by the rules. It took you 15 years to decide whether somebody's open or not, right? This idea of vendors on Main Street concerns me more than some of the other locations, because we have, 6 businesses that are restaurants that don't serve food and don't have kitchens. I've always told you I don't conceive of somebody having a restaurant that doesn't have food. You allow that. Now, since you do that, and I remember doing the $10,000 worth of equipment, if you have $10,000 worth of equipment, you do not have to meet the 51% food. it hasn't worked out. This may or may not work out, but it will hurt a lot of people. Remember, 250 feet is only half a block. So you can put 2 vendors on every city block. So be careful of what you ask for. There are always ways around it. Thank you.
My final speaker is Nick Kaloris. Please forgive me if I'm mispronouncing that.
Good evening. This is my first time at a meeting, and I came here. Nick Kaloris, 6th grade Appleway. Sorry. Came here because we just recently opened a business at the old Earl Street Grill location. Over $200,000 invested. Completely renovated the property that is not ours to come in and take care of our families, feed our families. So when I heard this was happening, knowing that, and this is not an insult to anybody, but just so you understand, for us, I look around this room, there was one city person who has visited us since the grand opening. That was part of the chamber. Our business during the regular hours, obviously we're new, is going to be slow. When those special events come in, that's what we're waiting for. We face the Ocean Center for a reason. And I've been in this town for 35 years, and I've followed a lot of the history of what, some of the people have spoken about here tonight. And all I ask you to do is put yourselves in our shoes, too, as people who come in. We pay taxes on a property we don't own. We spend a lot of money to fix it up. We currently have 5 full-time employees and 3 part-time employees who we pay well considering the business that we're in. And we're just trying to do the right thing here. Saying that we can get a food truck is a cheap way out. When Dino was talking about a hand wash sink, the rules are not the same. The barrier to entry of a food truck is not the same as a fixed establishment for somebody in the restaurant business. And if you understand that, then you may reconsider just a blanket opening for somebody to have a food truck anywhere in the city when there's businesses. Our location has been out of business 5 times before us. Okay, and they know because Timmy's properties are right next to us. And so we came in there and are trying to do something different and want to be able to stay in business with what we're doing. And we need your support in order to do that. Thank you.
That was my final speaker, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Thank you very much. We have comments from the commission. This is obviously a contested issue. Madam Traeger.
I believe we really need to help our local people who establish steady restaurants and plan to stay in our area. The money that goes to them stays in our area because they not only are supplying or employing local employees, but the money, I think that I've heard something about it circles 7 to 10 times. Things are going to be difficult, and I do know that they probably do rely on the event season to make up for the rest of the quiet time of the year. I believe we do need to support our local people who want to invest here and who want to stay here. And even though food trucks would be probably a festive atmosphere, they would only come during the high season when the most money would be, and I think we owe it to our local entrepreneurs to help them as much as we can, because what with this shutdown in the government, we might not have a very healthy season this year, and I'm for helping our local people.
Okay. Anyone else have any comments here?
I thought we said we were going to try this for a year. If I'm not correct, Dennis said that the sunset was July of 2020?
2020.
This is January. That's like a year and a half.
That's true. We did say a year. We didn't say a year and a half.
At the time we were drafting, we weren't sure when this would be coming back to you, and we had to pick a date. We can certainly move that date to January 2020 if you'd like at this point.
Okay. Make it a year so that it is what was.
They didn't like my 6 months. They didn't think that was long enough.
So with the Commission's approval, we can change that to January 2020.
Well, does that, let's make sure, does that Because that's what we said.
I think that
So,
reflects what we had said.
Yeah, so we need to
said
stick
a
with what
year,
we said.
so that would be
Okay.
what, 20?
Yeah, January 2020.
All right, very good. We'll make that change for second reading, assuming we pass.
So, Mr. Mayor, when we first started down this road, the intent, I think, of the food truck concept for me was to service communities that did not have access to food and or restaurants. That was the intent originally, right? I'm a small business person myself. I pay taxes. I know brick and mortar. I recognize that 3 months, 1 month, 6 months means you lose revenue and you can never make it back, right? So the intent was never to, for me, never to harm a business, but to help people who did not have something. And we've been discussing or trying to figure out ways how we can service both. That's where I'm at right now, trying to understand, is there a way that we can help the communities that needed access to food and or restaurants as a means of economic stimulus in those areas while not hurting the business? Is there any way around that? Or is it one or the other? I don't know. That's the question. Mr. Chisholm?
I don't know. I mean, I
The
don't
one
have
with
an answer.
the one with the need, I believe, is why we said that the vegetable, the fresh vegetable and fruit trucks could go anywhere, so that they could serve those who perhaps were in a food desert and could have access in the event that they didn't have transportation to get to a local grocery store. However, the other, it was to just provide a different service to the citizens, period. But I can also understand what you're saying, that this is your livelihood, and so that is how do we balance that?
So
and I think that's why we put the sunset on it. That if we didn't like it, if it didn't work, if it hurt the local businesses, we could stop it. We just wanted, this was a trial basis.
So, what I did was I did speak to merchants on 2nd Avenue. I approached them and I...
Mary McLeod Bethune Boulevard.
Sorry, thank you, Mary McLeod Bethune Boulevard, thank you. And I asked how they felt about it, right? And the response was, I apologize, sir, I did not know. Sorry. I said 2nd Avenue, I apologize. Okay. So, train of thought. So I did speak with 1 or 2 merchants, and even though we don't have many restaurants there, the response was still not one that said, let's do the food trucks. I was surprised, because when I speak to students there, they would like that. It was really designed for that purpose. That's what we agreed, that's what we thought. So again, unsure as to how to proceed.
Okay.
Well, from the beginning, I've had some pretty significant reservations about this because of the way it would affect, our brick and mortar restaurants. In speaking with Bob Davis and him talking with some of the folks with the his organization, there seemed to be pretty much universal opposition to going forward with this. What we've been trying to do since Thanksgiving is to split the baby, and find something that we could all live with. At least temporarily, while we can see how it would play out. And actually, Dennis, can I? So just to simplify this, where the food trucks would be allowed they would not be allowed on the boardwalk because trucks aren't. They would not be allowed on the boardwalk because trucks aren't allowed on the boardwalk. In general, it would either be on private property at the permission of the owner, or in a parking spot that could be on a city street, but only for the amount of time that they would be allowed to park there.
No, not in this particular revision that we did. It's not permitted on right-of-ways anymore. The mobile produce is, but the food vending, the food trucks would not be permitted on the streets anymore.
So if I think through Dino and Lisa's area, there really would not be an opportunity for there to be a food truck east of A1A anywhere near where their establishments are.
There's a lot of restaurants, so it would all stop them from
and
going
there's
in.
also nowhere that they could park. I mean, George Anderson's parking lot would be a possibility.
It would have to be an improved surface, and if it's not, then
okay, you're right. So that one would not qualify.
Correct.
You know, the next, you know, you get the Hilton to the north. As you go into the south, you have our parking lot. We wouldn't, you know, they wouldn't be allowed there. You know, and it is fairly tight what we've done to try and make sure that it didn't have this negative effect. And I just use that small area as an example, but when you think through Seabreeze or Main Street, you know, Beach, East ISB, you know, you're going to run into the same kind of situations with pretty much all of those properties. You know, I think the one, you know, major fear that I still have is during a special event, somebody deciding that they're going to rent out. You know, I mean, Humphreys Jewelers always does a tent, I believe, but you know, they could theoretically put a food truck there because Main Street Station doesn't serve food. I don't think there's a restaurant within 250 feet of that particular parking lot.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I don't think so. But that's a situation where, you know, that in that location, they would be harming the brick and mortar restaurants that are on Main Street. You know, and we get constant complaint from, you know, people like Ann and Sandy that they want to see year-round businesses on Main Street. And this, to me, is still something, even as tight as we've made it, that would still be a deterrent to somebody opening a year-round restaurant on Main Street.
Well, it does sound like most of the concern is in what appears to be a lot of the redevelopment areas. Perhaps the amendment can be written in a way where the mobile food vending couldn't occur in the redevelopment areas, but maybe in the other areas of the city, and that can go for a year, and maybe we see how that would work, and then it would sunset and then come back. So maybe not addressing the redevelopment areas, but the other areas of the city, that would be a possibility.
My redevelopment area doesn't have many restaurants, so we would welcome them.
Okay.
You know, I'm okay letting this get through to second reading, but I still have some pretty serious reservations about whether or not this really is a good idea in the long run for Daytona Beach.
Okay.
I have a comment.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you want to revisit the 6 month? Are you stuck on the year? I'm just throwing it out there, you all.
It's up to you all. Whatever your pleasure is, if you all want to.
So the city had an event, because we're looking at solutions, right, where we can satisfy as many as we can. That is the goal, is satisfy as many as we can. So we had an event with the city that was successful, where it was in a location for over X amount of time. Is there any way that we could try that, a particular location in certain areas where it's limited? Anything like that? I know we're against limitation and restriction or usage. Is that, because we're doing it now, correct? But the city is the one putting it on, sponsoring it.
Yeah,
Okay.
Any special event can have the food trucks. They'd have to apply for the special event, and they'd be able to do the food trucks on a case-by-case basis.
What
It
is
just
the
wouldn't be
cost?
opened up to...
What is
you
the
know,
cost of the special event?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what the fees are.
It's not prohibited.
Okay. Okay. And this you had a collection, the city had a collection of food trucks in one area, and it was a...
We did it over somewhere around Main Street.
You're talking to Mike.
We actually had it over on Main Street
Right.
in conjunction with the owners of the Main Street area.
Okay.
My thought is if it was easy to predict exactly how things would work, you know, life would be a lot more simple. And the bottom line is we have no idea what's going to happen if we make these changes. It may be that something unforeseen occurs for better or for worse. I mean, one thing is certain: if we don't change anything, then we'll have at least the status quo for better or for worse. So I'm in favor of adopting it for a limited period of time. I don't think 1 year is too long. I think 1 year is about right because, you know, if people are going to invest in that business, they need to have at least some idea of how long they're going to be able to try. And it's going to take some time by the time the news goes out for people to tool up and actually make a run at it. There are other cities in Volusia County that have food trucks that have made it work, and that has been part of, you know, DeLand and different cities have done it and done it well. So I'm not sure that it's going to be the death knell to brick and mortar businesses, although I've heard Dino's concerns and his sister's concerns, and I received the letters and I read them and I understand the concern. I think that to some extent, the food trucks are going to find an equilibrium in the time that we give them, and they're probably going to go to places like they do in other cities where there's not already food, but where there's a high concentration of people who want food.
like breweries and places like that. And those tend to be because of the restrictions we placed on breweries, not in the areas that we were talking about. There's not a brewery next to a restaurant on the boardwalk. There's not a brewery on Seabreeze. So there's not a brewery on Main Street. The breweries are going to be in like kind of light industrial type areas. And that seems to me to be where the food trucks have been going. I don't think that use is a competition with our brick and mortar businesses. I think it's a way of bringing people to a different part of the city that they may not otherwise visit, and it is a good synergy, and it's a way of helping people who are in other industries like the brewery industry or some of the entertainment industry. So I think that that's a way for us to do it that's a good compromise, and I think that we can revisit. We'll come back in a year, and if it's been disastrous, then we'll have had 1 year to judge that, and we may find that it's much ado about nothing, and no one applies for food truck permits, and it's not something that people want. But I think other cities have done it successfully, and I think it's something we should offer our community for a limited time to see if it can be successful. And I think there's no one who disagrees with the idea of providing an opportunity for fresh produce and wide dispersal of those kinds of groceries throughout the community. My fear is that it may just not be lucrative enough for that to happen. That we might have to help or incentivize or do things like that because the economies of scale aren't going to bear that out. But we don't have anyone from the farmers market complaining about that. So I think we should give it a try. We tend to do. I mean, if we do nothing out of fear, we will certainly be here again. Food trucks may also just be a fad. They come and go, and in 5 years there may be no need for them whatsoever. They may join lawn darts and other things like that that no one uses or needs. And we may all be kicking ourselves for having spent all this time on something that is passé anyway. But I think 1 year is a good period of time to try. I think 6 months, Commissioner Reed, is just a short period of time for someone to decide that they're going to do it and make a good run of it. And I don't know that it's enough time for us to really gather data, because by the time we get it up and running, I think we'd probably be 3 months into it. But I'm not opposed to, if that's the where the consensus needs to be made, then we could shorten down the time period if that's going to make people feel better about it. And I think, Commissioner Gilliland, you make a great point. It seems very wide open, but it's kind of the inverse of what we're going to talk about when we talk about panhandling. How 97% of the city is available for panhandling. Well, we've only, by restricting 3%, we've going to affect this big change. Well, by the same token, a lot of the prime restaurant real estate is not going to be available to food trucks. So even though 97% of the city might be open to food trucks, most of our restaurants are clustered in areas that are not going to be. So to me, it's, as you pointed out, if you apply it to a specific area, it's very hard to come up with an overwhelming amount of space for food trucks to come in and compete with the majority of our brick and mortar businesses. So I mean, I hope we can pass it on to a second reading, and then I would be voting in favor of doing it for a period of time, recognizing that is the best way for us to get actual data, as opposed to just speculating about something that none of us really know what the impact's going to be.
I'm going to respond to that, please. Ms. Traeger?
As Commissioner Delgado said, they come and they go. We have been trying to establish permanent businesses on Main Street for a long time. I think this would be a detriment to somebody wanting to establish a permanent business on Main Street or any other area. Because, as they said, with the permission of the owner, they can put it pretty much anywhere. I want to support our local entrepreneurs, like I said, because they will keep the money here. They will be permanent, and they will be our neighbors. I'm going to have to vote no.
Vote
Are we
tonight.
voting?
Go ahead.
I'm not sure voting it. I don't believe in letting the money leave the community. I think that business people here, we spend a lot of money and we reinvest in the community, whether it's through sponsorships, donations. We keep the money here. So I support the idea of, right now, I'm surprised because I really was pro-food truck till I started looking at it a little bit differently. So, I think the idea of money leaving our community is not a good thing.
Okay, remember, this is the first reading, so we definitely can have this robust discussion, but we want to try to bring it back. Do we have other comment? Okay. No other comment. We have a motion and a second.
Actually, I do have a question. Do we need to amend the motion in a second to add those changes?
Change to a year.
No, the only change is to the code, which I'll fix on second reading.
Okay.
And just to be clear, since second reading will be in February, I'll make it February 1st. Very good.
Can we just say 1 year from enactment? I mean, does that
I'd like to have a date certain so that we don't have to go back and find the date of enactment when we read the ordinance.
Okay. No other questions or comments? Okay. Well, we're going to take a roll call vote, but in the meantime, I would like to say to those of the Greek persuasion, I apologize for what I view as a inappropriate and somewhat racist nomenclature that came from our podium earlier. These things happen. We don't control what people say, but certainly they disgust me, and I find them to be not appropriate for public discourse. May we have a roll call vote?
Commissioner Traeger?
No.
Commissioner Delgado?
Yes.
Commissioner May?
No.
Commissioner Gilliland?
Yes.
Commissioner Henry?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Mayor Derek L. Henry?
Yes.
Okay, so it's 5-2 to pass, and the public hearing will be February 6, 2019. Moving on to item number 9C, it's a Development and Administrative Services Planning Division, Williamson Ridge Neighborhood K and S Large Scale Comprehensive Plan Amendment. This is an ordinance on first reading public hearing. An ordinance adopting a comprehensive plan amendment in accordance with Chapter 163, Part 2, Florida statutes, amending the future land use element Neighborhood K, Issue C, Policy 2, and Neighborhood S, Issue A, Policy 2, to remove listed permitted uses duplicated in the mixed-use future land use category, Policy 1.1.2 of the future land use element of the comprehensive plan, and to eliminate limitations on the commercial retail development at intersections of Williamson Boulevard and LPGA Boulevard and Clyde Morris Boulevard and LPGA Boulevard, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith and providing an effective date. The applicant has requested that this item be continued to February 6th. To 2019 regular city commission meeting.
Motion to continue to February 6th.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Gilliland. We'll take a second from Commissioner Delgado. Do we have any questions or comments? All right, all those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those in opposition, same sign. This motion for continuance carries 7-0.
Okay, now move on to item number 10, which is our administrative items. Item number 10A is Legal Department Panhandling Ordinance. This is an ordinance on first reading. An ordinance of the City of Daytona Beach, Florida, repealing Article 1, Article 3, Article 4, and Article 6 of Chapter 66, Peddlers, Solicitors, Canvassers, and Itinerant Vendors, City Code, replacing Article 1 of Chapter 66, City Code, providing for findings and intent, providing for prohibited conduct and proximity and location restrictions for solicitation, panhandling, or begging, providing for penalties, providing for repeal of conflicting ordinances, and providing for an effective date.
So move.
We have a motion from Commissioner Traeger and a second from Commissioner Reed.
And I do have Mr. Kahn here.
All right, Mr. Khan. Now, we can't be here for 3 hours tonight, sir. Three extra hours. Four.
Mr. Mayor, I can guarantee you that the proverbial, well, yeah, the answer is absolutely. It will not be. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Commissioners. This is just a very brief presentation, but there's certain things that I have to do. This has to do with the ordinance that you all are by now very familiar. We've had 2 evidentiary hearings. Because this is a first reading, the first thing that I want to do in a formal way is readmit, just by reference, the exhibits that were admitted into evidence in both the December 12th, 2018 meeting and special meeting, and also the January 10th, 2019 special meeting. So with your permission, Mr. Mayor, I will address Madam Clerk and ask that the following exhibits be readmitted for purposes of the 2 readings of this ordinance, if I might.
Okay.
There were 9 exhibits that were admitted into evidence on December the 12th. I would like to readmit for purposes of the first and second reading Exhibit 1, which was a Daytona Beach News Journal article, July 17th, 2018. Exhibit 2, which was the resume of Dr. Stephen G. Miles. Exhibit 3, which were the medical research studies that Dr. Miles reviewed and testified to. Exhibit 4, which were photos of the Daytona Beach Pier and Boardwalk and bandshell. Exhibit 5, which was a Daytona Beach Police Department Pop Unit PowerPoint presentation. Exhibit 6, which was a State of Florida traffic crash report 17004099. Exhibit 7 was a news article about the effect, the tragic effect of a panhandler upon a panhandler donee. Exhibit 8 is a State of Florida traffic crash report 150021925. Exhibit 9 was in fact the draft of the panhandling ordinance December 12, 2018. On the meeting on January 16th, 2019, I think I misspoke about the date of this previous. January 16th, there were 2 further exhibits. Exhibit 1 to that meeting was the City of Daytona Beach Panhandling Map Series Index, and Exhibit 2 is the digital record, which comprised roughly 2,000 pages of the record in my ordinance that I crafted for St. Augustine, period. So I would like those readmitted for purposes of these 2 hearings. And Mr. Jagger, I was thinking that a motion to readmit might be appropriate, just to make it clear on this record that these exhibits have been readmitted.
That would be fine.
Okay.
Second.
We'll take a motion from Commissioner Delgado and a second from Commissioner Reed. We have any other questions? We don't have to open that up to public comment, do we?
Yes, we will.
Okay. Do we have public comment regarding this motion? Yes, sir.
So the public comment is about the admission.
Yes,
of
it's about the admission of the
not about the ordinance.
item.
It's about the exhibits.
Yes,
Okay.
about the exhibits.
I'm Charles Smythe. I grew up here and I worked for the News Journal. And when I went over here to the Martin Luther King celebration at AME Church the other day, there were these 3 guys right in the middle of the median over here at Ridgewood and Bay Street.
Sir, it has to pertain to the exhibit of the ordinance. Thank you. And would you?
The News Journal
Okay.
said we're the second county in the whole state that gets people run over.
Thank you, sir.
Said that
Yeah.
today.
All right. Yes. Have a seat. Okay. All right. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And 2 further housekeeping matters. I would like to move into admission for tonight's first reading as well as the second reading, both of the transcripts of the December the 12th meeting, 2018, of which I have a copy, and also the January 16th, 2019 meeting. And I will present these to Madam Clerk.
Okay.
Those will be on file with the clerk. We won't need a motion on that.
May I approach Mr. Mayor?
Yes. Thank you.
And, Mr. Mayor, that's really it, except I'm up here to answer any questions that may be forthcoming about the ordinance, and that's it.
Okay. Do we have any questions?
Oh, 1 second.
Yes.
I did miss something. What I've got to do also is I've got to move the physical record of the St. Augustine record into evidence. We, at the last meeting, one of the pieces of evidence that we moved into admission was a flash drive. But one of the things we've been in communication with your clerk, and she said that she would appreciate it also if we move the physical record as well into evidence. So I'll take a look at that.
Do you need a hand truck for that?
Thank you, Steve. That would help.
Yes, sir.
These are three books of the evidence of the record, including testimony, photos, the medical studies that were used for St. Augustine, and other evidence. Now, with that, Mr. Mayor, I'm concerned.
Okay, thank you. And we don't need a vote for that either. Okay. All right. Does that concludes for you, Mr. Khan?
Yes, it does, other than I'm here to answer any questions.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Does anyone have any questions? Okay. All right. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. This motion carries 7-0. Thank you for your good work. Look forward to seeing you next month when we can conclude this matter.
The public hearing is set for February 6th. Moving on to item number 10B, it's the Development and Administrative Services Redevelopment Division of Vista Rezoning Plan Development Redevelopment. This is an ordinance on first reading. An ordinance amending the zoning map of the Land Development Code to rezone 2.176 plus or minus acres of property located at 41 South Ocean Avenue from RDB1 Beachside Redevelopment Hotel Mixed Use to PDRD Plan Development Redevelopment, authorizing the mayor and the city clerk to execute the Avista Plan District Agreement with Avista Properties 7 LLC, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith and providing an effective date. The applicant has requested this item be continued as a first reading item until February 6, 2019.
Motion to continue to February 6th.
We have a motion from Commissioner Gilliland and a second from Commissioner Delgado. If we have no further questions or comments, all those in favor, let it be said by stating aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Moving on to item number 10C is the Development and Administrative Services Planning Division Code of Ordinances Text Amendment, Mobile Food Vendors. This is an ordinance on first reading. An ordinance amending the City Code of Ordinances, creating Chapter 103, Mobile Food Vendors, establishing regulations and licensing requirements for mobile food vending, providing for regulations to sunset on July 1st, 2020, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith and providing an effective date.
And this one will need an amendment to change the sunset date to February 1st, 2020.
I'll make the motion. I'll move to amend it to track the February 2019 date for the prior amendment.
So that'd be February 1st,
February
2020.
1st, 2020. Yeah. Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Delgado.
Second.
We'll take a second from Commissioner Henry. Okay, do we have any other business on this matter? None? Okay.
Actually, Mr. Mayor, just to reiterate my comment from earlier, I'm okay with moving this forward to second reading, but I still have reservations about the impact that this will have on the community.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second with those comments. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0.
No.
I'm sorry, 6-1. My apologies.
And the public hearing is set for February 6th. Moving on to item number 10D, it's the Development and Administrative Services Redevelopment Division, Bella Vita Estates, rezoning to redevelopment downtown riverfront mixed use, RDD4. This is an ordinance on first reading. An ordinance amending the zoning map of the Land Development Code to rezone 0.65 plus or minus acres of property located at 919 and 923 North Beach Street from M1 Local Industry to RDD4 Redevelopment Downtown Riverfront Mixed Use, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date.
So move.
We have a motion from Commissioner Gilliland. Do we have a second?
Second.
We take a second from Commissioner Traeger. Do we have any questions or comments from the commission? Okay, hearing none. All those who are in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those who are opposed, same sign. This motion carries 7-0.
The public hearing is set for February 6th. Moving on to item number 10E, it's the Development and Administrative Services, Leisure Services Department Bike Week 2019 Private Property Master Plan Resolution. A resolution approving the Bike Week 2019 Master Plan for outside activities on private property, authorizing outside activities during Bike Week 2019 on private property located on Main Street, Halifax Avenue, Fairview Avenue, Beach Street, Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune Boulevard, Martin Luther King Boulevard, Fulton Street, Weaver Street, McLeod Avenue, Walnut Street, and Oak Street, pursuant to Section 5.4.C.11, temporary outside activities associated with a festival, the Land Development Code, and providing an effective date.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Reed and a second by Commissioner Gilliland.
For the record, Commissioner Traeger has turned in the Form 8B, which is a memorandum of voting conflict for county, municipal, or other local public officers on this item. And if you could just state the purpose of your conflict.
I'm part owner of one of the properties involved.
Okay. Do we have any questions or comments here?
We do have Mr. Bob Coleman and Phil Maroney from the Bike Week Festival Task Force here to report.
Yeah.
And then I do have public speakers.
Good evening, Mayor.
Good evening.
City Manager. Thank you for letting us be here tonight. Phil Maroney, 275 Clyde Morris Boulevard, Ormond Beach, Florida. As mentioned, I'm co-chair along with Bob Coleman of the Bike Week Festival Task Force. Bob couldn't be here tonight, but he's in support of this as well. Just start off, a couple of comments. First off, this was probably the most thorough Bike Week Festival Task Force process that I've been involved with in any case. My compliments to the city staff, led by Deputy City Manager Jim Morris. Really good turnout. We have a diverse group of people. You know, we have, as I said, the city. We have public safety with Chief Capri there. We have various, business leaders and or business people that were there. Some of whom have interest in Bike Week operation along Main Street. Others who are just interested parties. We had a good representation of the residents in the neighborhoods as well. Ms. Amy Pyle was there. We had a lot of participation. Very diverse group. Lots of questions, comments, etc. But all in all, I think we all came to agreement that this was a very good process and quite thorough. So, be happy to address any questions that may come up that I can, and appreciate being here.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions? Bill? All right. As always, we appreciate you and your committee's work.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We have speakers also.
Yes. Our first speaker is John Nicholson, and on deck is Sandy Murphy.
John Nicholson, 413 North Granby Avenue. Last year, I asked that all the businesses that were closed and were not open not be allowed to use our, I don't know what the new name is for Title 17, the vending. I'm asking you this year that all those who wish to do so maintain their property year-round. There was one vendor. There's trash on the property. It's a parking lot. Weeds, and during the event all they do is put tables on top of the weeds and sell food. So I'm asking that those that do not maintain their property year-round in terms of landscaping, that they not be entitled to Article 17. I've spoken to a dozen people that are open year-round, and they have no objection to keeping their property clean and neat. I'm asking you to do the same to all properties. Thank you.
My next speaker is Sandy Murphy.
Good evening, Sandy Murphy, 136 Park Avenue. Even though this seems like a minor administrative matter, this plan has everything to do with the current appearance of Main Street and Mary McLeod Bethune Boulevard. So it's important to the image of our community. And I would like to echo Mr. Maroney's comments that the activity of the staff this year was very impressive. this was an entirely different way of having the proposals examined. And the people this year who did not keep their properties in compliance did not get included in this plan. So I want to congratulate the city staff on being really on top of that and doing a good job of kicking this up a bit in terms of enforcement. There is one piece of the plan, though, that I am still uncomfortable with, and that is that there are several properties in the plan where the applicant for a vending permit on the property doesn't own the property, nor is there evidence of a lease agreement that they have on the property. So that would be kind of like going in and saying, well, these guys next door have a vacant lot. I would like the permit to park on their lot. Well, no. Oh, but, it's Bike Week. I've been doing that for years. Well, okay, you can do it then. That seems to be the attitude that we have. And the more that we can get rid of these informal, we've been doing it this way agreements and really stick to the letter of what we are trying to do, the better those two neighborhoods are going to look. So I would encourage you to pass this with the provision that anyone that does not have either ownership of or an agreement for use of a property that they're applying for does not get included in the final plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was my final speaker on the item.
All right. We have Mr. Morris.
Mayor Commission, I'm Jim Morris. I'm the Deputy City Manager. I want to thank the speakers for the compliments they gave to us. In respect to Ms. Murphy's comments, Teresa Doan's property was involved with a user, and I have a copy of the lease agreements that Teresa Doan has with that property owner, which gives him the authority to use the property, which you can certainly do pursuant to a lease. And in earlier replies to some questions, we had pointed out you could have an authorization from owner. That could be a simple, I authorize you to do this, or it could be more complex in the form of a lease. Nevertheless, I do have those. Ms. Doan came over this evening to deliver them. I didn't have them before the meeting tonight, but I will tender those to the clerk. In addition, there was a question raised in Ms. Pyle's email about a food license for the Full Moon Saloon. I have the Full Moon Saloon food license here. I will tender that also to the clerk. We did carefully and extensively go over everything. I had both Hannah Ward and Rosen Askew in the office, and I imagine they went through the thing 5 times. All the applications and everything. And we attended the meeting, we talked with the folks there, and we've spoken to about the fact that we're actually working on redrafting the standards that pertain to the Bike Week Master Plan, so folks are on notice, and we'll have input from the community, we'll have input from the commission, as well as the commission's review of those things when we get finished with them, so that you have the opportunity to address things further that, by virtue of the current set of standards, the things that are approved tonight, the best of our ability to tell, are entitled to be approved. And if there needs to be modification of the standards, everyone will participate. And I spoke to the folks at the Bike Week Master Plan meeting in the chamber that they could expect it to come. There are things that need to be done that actually would address circumstances that are beneficial to the merchants. And so we're moving forward and trying to be as both transparent and aggressive as possible while still carrying out the objectives of the commission, which I know reflect the balance of the community. So with that said, Mr. Chairman, Mayor, I'll tender these to the clerk.
Absolutely. And let me also say thank you to you and your staff for working, I think, harder than the staff has ever worked to try to, I think, reflect the wishes of this commission, which is to ensure that Main Street is thriving, as well as MMB. And so the objective, again, from my perspective, has been that we would carry out the will of this commission and up the ante, and you certainly have done that, so thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any other comments? Okay. All right.
I have no other speakers.
We have no other speakers? Who was the motion?
Commissioner Reed was the motion, and Commissioner Gilliland was the second.
Gilliland was second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those who are in favor, let it be noted by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. 6-0. We had an absent.
Moving on to item number 10F, it's the Development Administrative Services, Cultural Services Department Bike Week 2019 Public Property Master Plan Resolution. A resolution relating to Bike Week 2019, providing for motorcycle-only traffic and parking in various locations, suspending parking regulations in the commercial areas of Controlled Parking District from March 1st through March 17, 2019, in accordance with Section 94-218D of the City Code, authorizing the city to operate paid parking lots at various locations in the Main Street area, authorizing various activities on public parking, and providing an effective date.
All right, we have a motion from Commissioner Gilliland and a second from Commissioner Reed. Do we have any questions or comments? Okay.
No public comment?
No public comment.
No public comment.
No speakers. Okay. All those who are in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those who are opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Move on to comments and inquiries from the City Commission. We commence tonight with Commissioner Traeger.
Nothing, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Delgado. Commissioner May.
I just laugh when you come to me. Oh my God. All right. So, Chief Free, please. I have a question about the speeding that we were working together on. The speeding situation on 2nd Avenue and then also South Beach. How's that going?
Very well. I
Yeah.
sent an email out late this afternoon. I don't know if you got it yet.
And yeah.
Several citations were issued in the 800 block of MMB, a couple arrests, a couple fleeing vehicles, which we cannot pursue. But the word is out that MMB's hot, and don't come down there and do any of your narcotic activity and whatnot. So it's on our list now perpetually to check it all the time. So several tickets were issued. You'll see it in the email. I sent that about 5 o'clock.
Okay. And the other thing was we did a code enforcement kind of drive around.
Yes.
How is that going in the area?
Everything's good on the list. We're just checking them off. The graffiti was taken care of on Coates. A couple other complaints on, I don't have the list in front of me. I know everything we did, I think I have a running list. We pretty much got them all done.
Okay. And then, thank you, sir. And then finally, Mr. Chisholm, with regard to the lighting on Main Street, do we have any kind of tentative dates yet that have come up?
Early spring is the date we have from FP&L.
Okay. Thank you so much. And that's what we're waiting for is FP&L.
Yep.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Okay, come back, Commissioner Traeger.
I got an email. There's no sound on the commission meeting broadcast on the website. Please advise.
Okay. Okay, you're working on it? Okay. Commissioner Gilliland?
Jim, we heard anything more out of Mr. Johns from Indigo? I mean, it's been, the last we've heard from him was before the meeting at the PD. I've gotten a number of inquiries from residents in Indigo recently, and actually received some photos in the mail today from a resident as well. But, just thought, unfortunately, anybody watching this can't hear me say this, but I wanted to get on the record that we simply haven't heard anything from
We've not heard from him.
From the owner at this point.
We did get a written request for the process, and we have staff. Dennis, I think, was supposed to send out a process that they could expect in the event that an applicant his application is filed.
Did we receive that from
Tom?
From somebody in Indigo, from a resident? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And if we could I know Code's done a great job out there so far, but if we just make sure they kind of keep a regular, eye on both the clubhouse and the golf course, I would appreciate it. The residents out there are quite bothered. If it's the same Tom I'm thinking of, he's got a second contract on his house that looks as though it's also going to fall through because of the situation with the golf course. So there's, I think, 450 homes out there, and they all are kind of sitting on eggshells trying to figure out what the future holds. So beyond that, have a good evening.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Henry?
I want to say welcome to my beautiful sister-in-law and her Saraz of Delta Sigma Theta. Thank you for coming and joining us tonight. I know that I need to go ahead and do what I usually do, so I'm going to donate $250 to their cause. Also, that I want to say, I just want to say that I know I've gotten quite a few calls and emails about Jimmy Ann Drive, and Jim has informed me that we did have to send that back out for rebidding because it's going to be a much more extensive project than we thought, but it is coming and it is on the way. Also, I want to say that I'm very excited and I'm very proud that we are now, even with the shelter, now deciding to move and get on board with affordable workforce housing. I think that it is paramount for us to address this issue right now this year. It was something that I had started talking about last year, and so now I'm hearing more and more of the commissioners begin to get on board with affordable workforce housing. I do believe that during pre-planning and for the months to come that there are ways that we can address this issue, not just one-fold, but maybe 2, 3, even fourfold, because we have so many opportunities that we haven't looked at. So I'm looking forward to working with you all on affordable workforce housing. It's just as dear to me as that homeless shelter was, and making sure we took care of the homeless. Our residents are spending 60 to 70% of their income is going towards housing. And I think that it's going to make for much better living conditions in our community when we really tackle that issue. Also, I'd like to give $200 to the Race Foundation from my Bike Weeks funds. And also, I just want to, I didn't say much about the food truck, but I do want the brick and mortar businesses to know that I am cautiously optimistic that it is going to work out favorably for all parties. I really want to see if we can help all parties succeed, and that was my goal in deciding to vote for it. If you see before the 1-year period that it isn't working favorably for you, come back, come see us. We don't have to wait until that 1-year period to readdress that issue. Mayor's Fitness Challenge is going on. I missed it last night, but I will be ready next week as soon as I get back from my trip, and I'm looking forward. I want to donate $150 to the Mayor's Fitness Challenge.
Yeah, thank you very much.
You're welcome very much. And that's it for me. Good night. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Reed?
Yes, sir. First of all, let me say that it's really nice to see the chambers full this evening, that citizens are coming out and citizens are speaking out. And we need to hear from you. We do represent you. Fresh Book Festival, the 8th one that we have had the pleasure of being the signature sponsor for, was once again a huge success. It has extended to a video presentation, short films on Thursday evenings, which we did in the News Journal Center and Commissioner May's zone. And then we brought it back to Midtown on that Friday night with a reception, with a band and with the authors already set up. And then all day Saturday, presentations from the various authors and awards from the mayor, presented by the mayor and by myself. Donna Banks does an excellent job, and I can't help but commend her on how she makes us look so good. This is one of our stellar events that we host here that puts literacy in the forefront of our community. And we had books for children, books for adults, just a plethora of representation, spoken word. It's an opportunity for us to really, really come out and have a good time. And I'm going to challenge all my commissioners to join us next year at the Fresh Book Festival. And some of the city employees, like the manager and the attorney, because this is something that we support. The reason we've really gotten behind this event is because some of our ECHO dollars that help build that facility require that we do some multicultural presentations. And so Donna is fulfilling that need for us, and I thank her for that, and I thank you all for supporting this initiative. As you know, this is the first initiative coming on as city commissioner in this zone 6 years ago, Fresh Book Festival. a little house cleaning. I would like to see price list of our facilities at the facilities. I had a citizen to tell me recently that they were at one of our facilities, I won't mention where, and they were given the tour of the facility. But when they asked the staff person what it cost, they didn't know. How can you work somewhere and not know what it costs? That's a part of, I would think, of what you do. So I think we should develop something, maybe Susan could develop something cute, that emphasizes our facilities and what they're worth. I know there's like an application fee, there's a refundable down payment, and then there's a price per hour, there's a price if there's a kitchen, there's a price if there isn't a kitchen, there's a price if you use it all day. I think that needs to be on display at the facility, so when someone tours and asks, they don't have to call City Hall. That's another step. At Embry-Riddle, we call that the Riddle Runaround. And I don't think we want our citizens to have to run around. I think we want to be able to share with them what their needs are at that time. I'd like to resurrect our conversation regarding the residents first. We've kind of played with that on and off. We're new now, and maybe we can look at that differently again, that ordinance in regards to giving citizens who live here an opportunity to be engaged in development, and a percentage of that being for them. Good news, MLK Day of Service. It was an excellent, it was so good, y'all, I almost cried. I could not believe how many people came out to support cleaning Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. We had so many folks that we went beyond where we said we were going to clean. We were only going to clean from Shady Place to George Ingram. We went to Mason Avenue, we had so many people. They were from all walks of life. There were youth groups, there were fraternities and sororities. There were just citizens who heard about it that came out. It was a beautiful thing, and I cannot thank staff enough. You all have seen the email where I thank staff. My conversation began with Hardy Smith because of the zone cleaning that he'd done. He engaged Susan Zerbone, Jim Morris and Susan were out there on a little golf carty thing, making sure everything was okay. I can't help but Bobby Butler and all the young men under him that were helping us with the little pick it up things in our gloves and the garbage bags. Just everybody that was there that day from staff that just helped make it a success. Citizens were tooting their horns at us because they were so proud of the fact that we were out there cleaning up our own city, and I have to commend them for that. Now, on that note, Rhonda Bostick, would you stand up, please?
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Thank you.
I wrote this young lady's letter to become a Delta. I am so proud of her. She and her family, her church, they took on their own initiative and cleaned George Ingram Boulevard. She was texting me to come, but I was at our state cluster. I had to text back and say, I'm sorry, I'm in Jacksonville. But, it's nice to see citizens to take the initiative. It doesn't always have to be, from us. We live here. We live here every day. You wake up and see stuff. I've got an empty lot behind me right now. As soon as I have an evening free, I'm going to get out there and clean up that lot behind my house because it makes my property look bad. You've got to have pride in what you've been blessed with. That's something that I tell myself all the time. I thank God for what he's given me. And if we all do that, clean up our own backyards, help our neighbors with their backyards, Daytona would be a better place. So, Rhonda, I commend you and your family, your church, your friends, your volunteers for taking that initiative on your own to take care of George Ingram Boulevard. And, okay, I'm going to give away some money. I'm also going to give $150 to the Mayor's Fitness Challenge that I'm going to win, Vanessa. Vanessa has challenged me from the clerk's office. And I've also read Sarah Tan's letter in regards to the shredding event. I'd like to give $250 towards that as well. That concludes my comments, Mr. Mayor.
Well, awesome. It has been stated, but it can't be overstated how lovely you ladies look. And we certainly want to welcome you to the chambers as always. Your participation and presence are always wanted, desired, and appreciated. But beyond that, and more importantly, I can't overstate the many great things that you all do as an organization in the community. I was certainly going to highlight my beloved, most beloved, and my wife often says, you love all of your students, but then there are those who rise way up to the top, and they are the cream of the crop. And Miss Bostick, as I refer to her during her days in my class as Lady Bostick, is one of the greatest and most favorite of all time. And her great work this what's it been about Saturday in the community just further illustrates why I believe that my recommendation for college wasn't stated quite as well as it could have been. Could have said even more. So happy to see all of you and delighted that you fellowship with my wife in this way and that she fellowships with you. We have much, as I said earlier today, and Commissioner Reed mentions, but we have to set something up. So I don't know if we've said we needed to, I don't know how we need to go about making that happen, or if you all have had a chance to review with Bob as it relates to the residency first issues, but we need to do that because when you allow that to run out, then we're forced to go back again and have to have more research done, which we shouldn't do that. So do we want to set a time? I know we've got a lot to do coming up, and I've said that this year I think is going to be one of our busiest years because we also have to have a workshop on affordable housing. We have to have a workshop, as we discussed earlier, on health. I had the pleasure on yesterday of meeting with the director of the health clinic, and we had a great conversation. But I think it's a conversation that we all need to have. And she actually has a sort of an experience that would be healthy for all of us to experience. So I'm going to recommend that we do that on a Saturday, where it would take us about 3 hours or so. We would go through, and I want some city staff to go through. It's sort of like an experience of what it's like to be poor in a city. Something that we did very similarly. We did it in my school this year. When school started, we had this. We all went through life as a parent, and you come away with a very different understanding of what it's like when a parent. I'm asking a parent to come to the school and demanding that they get down to the school, but the reality is they don't have the money. And when you go through this experience and you see what they spent their money on and the choices that they have to make, and they can't afford to put gas in the car to come to the school, or they don't have money to catch the bus to come to the school to check on their child, gives you a very different view. And the same can be said of us as a community. We will walk away with a different view of why folks may or may not be able to access some of the things that we want them to access for health. So I would like for us to consider a Saturday morning where we would start out with that, then we would come back and have a discussion, the original discussion that we had agreed and said we would have about what we can do as a commission. Because there are things, a lot of it, she was explaining to me, has a lot to do with things that we can't control, but some of which we can control. The article today, which illustrated us as the second most deadly place in the state of Florida to walk. Well, that's one of the things that we have to, and we are attempting to address it, but it's something that we have to be even more intentional in other ways, because that's one of the things that gives us a poor health rating. There are many factors that, so I would like for us to consider that. So we have a lot to do this year, and I'm going to push for all of them. The Fresh Book Festival was excellent. It's been stated, but it is a great experience, and literacy is another factor that's just critical in any community to enhance the quality of life. We have so many great literacy experiences in our community that oftentimes don't get the promotion that they deserve. And the final thing I'm going to rest with, I would say that the monitors look great, but I've been to several neighborhood meetings of late, and I would be remiss if I wasn't honest when a lot of the residents have said to me that they do not like the fact that they cannot hear public comment. And I realize that this is something that we've been through before. But I am going to go on record again, and I'm going to ask us to revisit that. And it's a decision at the end of the day that we have to have to make. But residents are saying to me directly that they want this on video when public comments come forth. And they also think that it should be recorded in the sense of documented. So I'm on record, and I think that it's a conversation that we need to have and say, because I don't think that it hurts anyone for them to watch. We don't always like what's said. Heaven knows I didn't like what was said earlier tonight. There will be more that's said that I won't like. But the reality is I believe they have a right to be heard. So I think we should allow that to be on video. Do we have any? Yes.
The minutes do reflect the comments and public comments.
The minutes do reflect it. Okay, so the minutes reflect it, but public comment still is not on video. Okay. I want to know, because we need to, this is a decision for us. Is that something that you all want to address, or you want to leave it as it is?
Mr. Mayor, if there was a way to make sure that we didn't have misinformation presented at such a great degree as, if you notice, it went down significantly when we stopped paying for the advertising of that misinformation.
Mm-hmm.
When we took it off, half the people would come and just, make up stories about, corruption and mistreatment and things like that weren't true to start with, stopped showing up. If they didn't have the platform, they didn't care to, they don't want to tell a room full of people. They want to, try and make sure that their lies are spread throughout the community.
Mm-hmm.
I do not think it's a good idea, and I hate to challenge you on this, but I do think it's damaging. I think it's damaging the reputation of the city with the types of things that are said, because more times than not, they are 100% untrue.
Okay.
I'm going to agree with Mr. Gilligan, only because as a citizen, I would watch them, and I actually started feeling bad for the commissioners sitting up here, because I just felt bad. Mm-hmm. And I found it was a little bit abusive sometimes, a little bit abusive.
Okay, and I respect that. Anyone else? I just want to make sure I'm on record for where I stand on this. We'll leave it this way. We have a resident who is going to recording them and putting them on Facebook, so it doesn't make us look too polished as it relates to that. But that's where we stand, and it's just I stand solo as it relates to that. This is not the time. You'll have a moment in just a second. Okay, leave it just as it is, because I'm the only person that...
Not necessarily. I think it's something that maybe we need to talk about more in depth. I didn't realize they couldn't hear.
They can't hear it. They can't see it.
I know they
it's
can't
not video.
See. Yeah.
And they can't hear it. So.
And they don't necessarily have access to our minutes.
No.
I think you can download the minutes online. Yeah. Which would be the same that they would be able to go to the archived vocal part as well as the visual part being archived. We've done a lot with this, in the time that I've been sitting here alone, from the time to when we did it and when they talked and when they couldn't talk, can't be seen. So we might want to just talk about that a little bit more in depth. So you're not necessarily by yourself.
Okay. Well, but if it's just you and I, we're not going anywhere. So and I'm okay if we don't go anywhere. I was okay with it before, but I just want it known that periodically I'll bring it back up, and if we stay where we are, hey, that's just where we are. Mm-hmm. Okay. Any other comments? Okay. That being said, this meeting is adjourned. We will convene with public comments immediately.